another edition of Weekly Live. I'm your host, as always, Noah Gorski, excited to be here and back with the group. We have a very, very, very special episode this week. We're going to be bringing on two of our esteemed colleagues here at Facebook. We have Heather McNeil and Rachel Mall both joining us to discuss the joint account management program that they've helped pioneer and shape here at Facebook throughout the last 6 months, with a specific focus, as we've been kind of teasing for the last week or two, on user acquisition strategy combined with our core monetization principles of audience network, and how we can kind of work better with the teams internally at Facebook to service a lot of our shared clients. So we're super excited about that, but we will, as always, give it a quick minute for everybody to join in who's able to make it with us. We, again, are really excited about today's very special episode, and we hope you can join us. We'll just kind of pause for a moment or two to see if we can get a few more people to join. But for those that are here, thank you so much for being a part of this. As always, we love having you. We value your feedback, and we are here to service every one of you and make sure that you guys are taking full advantage of everything that we have to offer. We will kind of kick things off in a second now. As always, if you're not joining us right now, that's okay, because this will be living on forever in our Facebook group. So feel free to catch up with it today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you guys have the time. A lot of valuable information that we're going to be covering today. And so we hope that you can take the time to really sort of dive in and figure out how you can implement some of these best practices as you go about monetization in your day-to-day. Let's just give it another quick second here, and then we'll introduce our special guests. As always, we will close with a little bit of housekeeping at the end, just talking about what's upcoming for next week, some other special surprises and things that are down the pipe as well. So without further ado, let's introduce today, and this is going to be our first time with three people on the screen at once. I hope you guys are ready for this. It's going to be pretty crazy. We have Rachel and we have Heather. Welcome, both of you guys. Let me see here. We have a little countdown. 3, 2, 1. Rach, what's up? How are you?
Hey.
And let's see if we can get our third guest. This has never been done before. Of the Audience Network. Heather, welcome.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, I'll let the both of you introduce yourselves. I'm going to kind of back out here for a minute, let you guys kind of run with things, but I will be secretly sending messages to everyone through the crawler on the bottom of the screen. So look out for those as well, guys. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Rachel and Heather, for being a part of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noah. Already met, I think, some of you virtually. I had a session earlier this month on CPM targets, so really excited to be a part of the moderated forum again and talk to you guys a little bit today about some of the broader ideas around optimizations, and then also have Heather, who's one of my esteemed colleagues and pals, join us as well. So I'll start with just some intros for Heather and I, and then we'll dive into Clipwire Games, which is a gaming developer that we've been working with as a joint account team over the last 8 or so months. And then we'll be covering at a high level some of the solutions that we utilize for Clipwire's success, both on the audience network side and the UA side. And then as well, dig into some of those optimizations that we hope will resonate with you guys as well. And of course, if there's any questions that come up throughout this process, definitely let us know. You can comment as usual on that live video. If we don't get it to it in the actual video, we will certainly follow up with that. Otherwise, we'll save some time at the end for Q&A if there's additional questions. So I'll just start with a quick intro on myself. I know I've met most of you, but I'm an account manager on the Audience Network team. I sit in our San Francisco office and have been working on the Audience Network product for a little over 2.5 years.
My name is Heather. I'm a gaming account manager based in our Austin, Texas office. I am Rachel's counterpart on the ad side of the business. So I manage a book of advertisers within the mobile gaming space, and I help them run UA and scale their business on the ad side. I've been working really closely with Rachel over the last 8 months or so on this joint account management program, and so we're really excited to tell you guys more about it. Rachel will kick us off by running us through the monetization side, and then I'll pop back in later and talk about UA.
Perfect. Thanks, Heather. Awesome. So what I'd like to just start with a little bit today is to give you guys some context around who Clipwire Games is before we really start diving into the specific solutions and optimizations that we followed for this specific publisher. So this is one of the guys that we've been working with. They're based out of Canada, and over the last 9 months just saw an enormous amount of growth, both on the audience network side as well as the UA side. And one of the things that we really found through this whole process was just how correlated those two sides of the business are. It's something that we've seen demonstrated with the publishers that we work with and the advertisers that Heather works with, is just the necessity to really be able to go in and think about the business as a whole unit, and also think of how anytime you're making ad investment, how much that actually ends up affecting your overall either monetization within ads or just your app's performance in general. So a little history on Clipwire Games. They're a mobile game developer based in Toronto. And their flagship product, if you're not familiar, is Bingo Story. It's one of their title key apps. Essentially allows for a competitive or tournament style bingo style game. And this is something where players can compete against their friends to win all of the tournaments. And so working together as the joint account management team over the last 9 months, they were able to see a 300% increase in ad revenue, and their lifetime value increased by 7%. And this is something that we're really excited to have seen. And through the different solutions that we'll cover today, we're hoping that as publishers and advertisers on Facebook, you'll be able to replicate a lot of these solutions and hopefully see similar successes. And so their problem statement, it was essentially wanting to be effective in both scaling their user acquisition and monetization for the big title Bingo Story. And so they had partnered with us, already working with Heather and I separately, but creating that sort of joint union was really where we saw everything take off. We were able to work together to build out a strategy for them to really grow ad revenue. And this was in part by shifting away from the former in-app purchase model. And so something that you might be familiar with if you're a gaming publisher is the idea of a bunch of the monetization that you're focused on is going to be through in-app purchases. And so right now it seems like the trend is certainly shifting away from that and being a lot more ad monetization focused. But of course, we still work with publishers who have that hybrid model, both in-app purchases and ad monetization. The understanding is that you're able to sort of have consistent IAP revenue, but also rely heavily on ad monetization to really continue growing that business. So that was their challenge. I'll cover some of the solutions that we did on the audience network side, and then I'll let Heather talk to some of the UA strategy as well. And so on the audience network side, the two key solutions were really around CPM targets, as you would imagine, as well as having a few updates to how they currently worked with us in terms of the SDK integration and caching best practices. So I'll cover all of those. Again, these are going to be a little bit more specific to gaming publishers, but this should certainly be information that even if you're working in the non-gaming app space, you should still be able to utilize a lot of these best practices as well. In addition, I know Noah posted the PowerPoint that we're going to be working off today, and so you can review that at your leisure. If you have more specific questions around any of the bullet points in that deck, feel free to comment as well. So without further ado, diving into CPM targets, I know this is a topic that we've covered quite a bit in moderated forum, so this shouldn't be new information, but what we did with Clipwire Games was essentially looked at a few different factors when trying to optimize their CPM targets. They had gone through the process of setting up CPM targets similar to how we would recommend as a best practice of setting that baseline. And again, that's going to be backed out by what you're currently using with mediation, what your overall waterfall stack is, and where there's essentially areas where you're trying to optimize specific areas of the funnel. And so whether that be at the top of your waterfall with really high value placements, right in that torso with something that's sort of right in the middle, or at the baseline where you're trying to essentially capture all remaining impressions that you might not be getting a ton of CPMs for, but you're still filling those impressions. They're just not going unfilled. So the things that we were looking at here were things like fill rate data, bid distribution data, waterfall positioning, and sandwich model. So I'll dive into all of those in just a little bit. Fill rate data is essentially just being able to make adjustments to your CPM target and then taking a look at what that fill rate backs out to. As you would imagine, as you increase that CPM target, your fill rate's going to drop. And as you do the opposite, it's going to go up. And so something that you have to understand is if you're utilizing the sandwich model, which we recommend anywhere between 3 to 5 placements per waterfall for, you're wanting to sort of go in with the expectation that as that CPM target is increased, especially right at that top of the waterfall, your fill rate's not going to be very high. For most of the publishers that I work with, typically their top tier placements are filling somewhere between, I would say, 10 to 20%. And this is completely normal because, as you would imagine, you're capturing that really, really high value traffic. But then, of course, that's not going to be filled at a high enough rate to really capture all the monetization you need through ads. And so that's where those torso and bottom fill placements fill in. Where you should see the, I would say, bulk of your fill is then that torso placement. And so understanding sort of where the values need to be, so they're not too close in value and cannibalizing this, but also at the same time making sure that your fill rate is somewhere in like 50 to 60%, maybe even higher percent range. That way you're still getting a bulk of the revenue through that torso placement, but you're again not leaving dollars on the table. The third piece here, again, waterfall positioning. And so this was something that was really critical to the success of Clipwire Games. They were working with a ton of different demand sources. Their waterfall positioning was sort of all over the place when we started working with them in January. And one of the big pieces of advice that we had given them was just to say, hey, like, give us an anonymized waterfall stack. And this is something that I do with all my publishers when I kick off a relationship with them. And then find the areas where they're specifically seeing a gap, whether that be in the torso, at the top, at the bottom, based on their waterfall positioning and the CPM values and fill they're getting for each. It's usually pretty clear where there needs to be optimizations made first. For Clipwire, it was at the top of their waterfall. Audience Network, our rewarded video CPMs are pretty high, especially for tier 1 countries. And so this is typically a format that I'll really push the envelope in terms of optimizations for, just because there's a ton of opportunity there for us to make an impact on your bottom line. And then sandwich model I already covered, but again, making sure to utilize those best practices that we have for CPM targets. And that's something that I can also have Noah link us to at the end of this video. Some of the other best practices around optimizations for CPM targets that we utilized for Clipwire was using country groups. So finding those countries where you already have a saturation of users in your region and understanding where there's essentially groups of countries where they have similar CPM performance. Even if the volume isn't the same, what you're really looking for is, for example, like UK, Canada, and the US. Typically, the CPMs are pretty similar. And so that would be an ideal sort of trio of countries to create a country group for. This minimizes the manual work you have to do to create those CPM target country groups, but also allowing you to make less adjustments when you're making optimizations at that level. And so the final one that I would like to cover before I kick things off to Heather to cover key solutions on the UA side is ad caching best practices. This is something that is, I would say, the least sexy optimization that we probably have to talk about at Audience Network, but it's something that can be really impactful to your overall revenue and your business. This is something that we worked really closely with Clipwire Games to ensure that they were at a baseline for what ad caching should look like. I've broken it out again on the deck as well. And so even though I'm going through it a little bit quickly, if you do have questions on this, all of those best practices are going to be there for you in that document. So the first one being reducing latency for an optimal user experience. And what this means is preloading your assets to improve the user experience, caching at the beginning of an activity or 5 to 10 seconds before an ad slot is shown to the user. Pretty common, but something that, if put in place correctly, can actually ensure that the ad is most relevant for the user without putting too much strain on anyone's servers. Second best practice is balancing the user experience when delivering the most optimal ad to the user. So this essentially means that you want to try and request the ad as close to when you plan on rendering that ad as possible. So this, again, is encouraging efficiency and ensuring that you're not hitting any of our thresholds internally, which is something that we want to flag for as well, because once you've cached an ad for over 60 minutes, that ad is actually expired, and so we're not going to be able to show that ad. And so you want to make sure that you're nowhere anywhere near that 1 hour mark in terms of when you actually cache and request that ad and to when you actually render and show it. Third best practice here is showing the most relevant ad to the user for highest performance. And so this is pretty common sense, but again, something that does help improve performance as well as create a more positive user experience is rendering the ads in the order they're received. So first in, first out. This ensures that the highest paying ads are shown to the user first and also guarantees that you're getting as much CPM as possible per ad impression. And then finally, the fourth best practice is when you're deciding whether or not to show a new ad or reuse. We encourage publishers to cache ads up to 60 minutes. Again, that's where that limit is. But we do recommend reusing ads to encourage conversion on an ad unit when possible. Great. I will kick things off to Heather. And again, we'll be checking the comments if there's questions at the end of Heather's presentation.
Cool. Thanks, Rachel. So for those of you following along with the deck, we are on slide 5 now, where it says Key Solutions UA. I'm going to be quickly running us through some key solutions that were instrumental in the successful UA growth on this particular publisher, but from a broader lens, we've also seen these same things work pretty much across the board from a gaming genre perspective. These products and best practices will fall under 2 main buckets: optimization, so products like campaign budget optimization and value optimization, and delivery, utilizing solutions like automatic placements and improving creative investment and refresh. So moving on first to optimization. First up, we have campaign budget optimization. This is something that I'm sure most of you, if you run UA currently on the platform, have seen. We are currently in the middle of a rollout beginning this month that will end in early 2020. Essentially, campaign budget optimization optimizes the budget in real time wherever there's the most efficiency across ad sets. So in Clipwire's case, we leverage CBO as a way to cut down on the manual work involved in optimizing ad set level budgets, and it got way more efficiency just across the board because it's leveraging more on automation and machine learning and less on manually optimized campaign budgets. Next up, we have value optimization. This one, they were previously only leveraging mobile app install and app event optimization, and we really just took them further down the optimization funnel, and we're optimizing toward return on ad spend rather than just purchases. In general, I would recommend just taking a look at your monetization breakdown. If you're trying to find whales, if you're trying to find higher return on ad spend players, I recommend going further down funnel, testing value optimization, and understanding if that optimization method will help in finding higher quality installs on the platform for you. And lastly, under delivery and creative, first up, automatic placement. This seems kind of like a no-brainer. It is the default method on the ad set level in Ads Manager. But in general, I recommend choosing more placements rather than less because it typically drives the most efficiency for your optimization method. Generally, we've seen that more placements allow you generally like 7% more reach and around 71% lower cost per conversions than just one placement. The chart that you see on the left, x-axis is time elapsed, y-axis is cost per outcome. And essentially all that this is saying is that the longer your campaign runs for, the more placements you allow our system to deliver in, generally the lowest cost per outcome overall that you'll see. So make sure that more placements are better. Creative refreshes. This one is something that I find a lot of advertisers, it seems more like an afterthought from a creative standpoint. It's like a qualitative nice to have, but what a lot of people don't realize is that there really is a quantitative impact to how much you're paying in the auction and how good your creative is. If you have stagnant, stale, old creative that you've been running for a long time, you're essentially paying a premium in the auction to run it. So I recommend being really proactive about investing in your creative refreshes, depending on the volume and the budget that you do from a UA perspective, anywhere from once a week to once every 2 weeks to once a month. But make sure that you're actively looking at those creative metrics like CTR and installs per 1,000 impressions to make sure that your creative is in a healthy place. Some easy tips to try to combat what we call creative fatigue. You can diversify your ad formats within ad sets. We recommend having a couple videos, maybe a static, to give the system enough diversity and flexibility to work with. You can expand your audiences, go broader, lean more heavily on automation and machine learning. And then finally, you can leverage a product that we call placement asset customization to deliver the most relevant creative to each placement. So if you're somebody that creates story-specific creative that you want to deliver into Instagram stories or Facebook stories, you can leverage placement asset customization to maintain the efficiency that comes with automatic placements while also forcing the system's hand to deliver the most relevant creative wherever you want it to serve. So just keep in mind that creative should be a priority, and it really does help in decreasing that creative fatigue and the audience saturation that we tend to see with longer running, more evergreen campaigns. And that was it that I had from a UA perspective. Did anybody have any questions? I see somebody asked how the PowerPoint was shared. There is a download link. I believe that Noah uploaded it yesterday into the group, so you should see that in there.
Yep. Looks like that was our big question. Again, of course, we're always available to help through Noah and Yolanda. So if you have any questions that come up after you've had time to go through the deck and process the Facebook Live video, definitely let us know and we'll be happy to provide more resources. If there's specific questions you have around UA strategy, Heather's certainly the expert on that. And then anything monetization can continue to run through Noah and I. So please utilize the group and post on the Facebook Live if you have questions. We'll make sure to get those answered for you guys after the fact as well.
All right, we are back in the mix. Guys, thank you so much. That was unbelievable. I personally am learning new things every time I hear you guys talk as well. So I can imagine that a lot of folks have found this very, very valuable. So I wanted to take the time again to say thank you so much for being a part of this on a very special Wednesday episode of Weekly Live. Not your regularly timed schedule. So again, for those that aren't able to be here today, please watch it throughout the rest of the week and take a look at the deck that they left for us as a bit of a leave behind, as Rachel mentioned, to dive right into those concepts and ideas and principles, and anything that isn't quite sticking. Follow up with questions. Yolanda and I are here to help. So thank you guys so much, and we hope to hear again from you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Okay. That was unbelievable. I honestly, I didn't even know we're able to have 3 people talking at the same time. So we had to upgrade our plan with BeLive. So shout out to the team at BeLive for letting that, happen so seamlessly for us. Really, really appreciate it. And as I can see with the comments coming through, people have found that super valuable as well. So thank you guys. Just as is customary, a bit of housekeeping to close out today's live video. First up, the final round of the quiz is this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. It is going live. Level Up, the final round of the season. It's still anybody's game. I know we had our first winner last week, but there is a lot of money, $300 on the line. Major stuff here. We also are dealing with some super special swag as well, straight from the Facebook swag store that we're going to be sending out to the winner as well. So take a look at those standings that went live, earlier this week, and make sure that you're there on Friday to be the first one in and get all your answers. I got a couple of curveballs coming at you this week, so be on the lookout for that as well. Next week's content will be impression optimization, with a focus on actually match rate and fill rate. So 2 really super important metrics here. Excited to kind of do a bit of a deeper diagnostic into what makes those metrics tick and how you can kind of have them working for you instead of against you. So we're going to spend a little bit of time there as well, just kind of going through everything and making sure you guys feel good as it relates to impression optimization and all of the ad credits that are available for you guys through that tool. So please take advantage as well. All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Hit me up, hit Yolanda up tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, every day of the week here, to follow up with any specific questions. We are always available, and we love your engagement. Tell us what's working and what's not, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, guys. Cheers.